Good morning. It's new every morning. It is so great to be back with you again this morning. It's Friday morning, January 23rd, 2026. I am your host, Tim Koger. I am not only your host, but I am the producer, the director of this podcast. Yes, I do it all, ladies and gentlemen. It's all mine to do. It is a beautiful morning here in Central West Virginia as I look out the window. It's kind of cold, but I don't see many clouds, but that's getting ready to change, isn't it? Yeah, that's getting ready to change. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I know everybody already knows it's coming. I am not going to do a story about the weather this morning. Why? Well, because everybody's doing stories about the weather. I don't need to do that. You already know about the storm that's coming all over the East Coast, the South, the North, Mid-Atlantic where I'm at. It's coming. How big will it be? I don't know. Some people think they know. You know how that works. Good morning, Sue. Nice to have you along. It's just kind of one of those things where they think they know how much is coming. And they're probably somewhat accurate. Each day it gets a little bit more accurate, I'm sure. But it is coming. When will it hit Central West Virginia? Well, sounds like maybe Saturday afternoon, the last thing I heard. Good morning, Deborah. Nice to have you along. I got some of these stories. It's kind of interesting to only doing this 2 times a week because the stories tend to pile up. So I'm not really sure how long this is. We'll see. We'll see. I hope you enjoy my stories. I enjoy them, but this is podcast number 59. I think I got offline last time. I think this is 59. I have to go back and research that because I accidentally made 2 podcasts for one day. Of course, I didn't use one of them. I only used one of them. The other I did not use, so I kind of got mixed up. We'll see. I'll research that this weekend, see if this is really podcast 59, but I believe it is. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I have big plans to go to a Christian concert this evening. It's called Winter Jam for people that know about it. I will be there. So will Chris Tomlin and Matthew West and many other people. So anyway, and a bunch of my people at church. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a great weekend. Please, stay in and stay warm this weekend as it starts snowing because we'll just see what it's like Monday because I'll be back here Monday morning no matter how much snow we got on the ground, unless I don't have electric. And even if I don't have electric, I'll try to be on here. We'll see. But hopefully we will. So anyway, let's get started. I have a lot of stories. I posted on Facebook some of the, what I would call teasers about some things I'm going to talk about. So the first one is about Sesame Street. Now they shared on social media, I think it was last week or early this week, and the quote was, "Our street just got a little longer." So if you are a Sesame Street fan, listen up. They just announced that over 100 full episodes of their show are now available on YouTube for free. YouTube. And, YouTube is now the largest digital library for Sesame Street content. And those shows go back to their first ever show in 1969. So you can watch the first ever show on YouTube for free of Sesame Street 1969, which is pretty neat, I think. So my next story, Snail Mail is making a comeback. Now, just a few years ago, most Americans, I hadn't written a letter in years. I don't know if you fit into that, most Americans, but what's happening now is digital overload, for sake of a better word, is hitting a lot of people. They're just getting overloaded with all the digital stuff. So what are people going to do? Well, they're starting to use some things that are non-digital. They're having what they call typewriter meetings. Pen pal clubs are making a comeback. Snail mail subscriptions are big. And just doing things besides all this digital stuff. Some other things they're doing is people are making scrapbooks again. That's a comeback. Knitting is making a comeback. Crocheting is making a comeback. All those things are making a comeback because people have just got their feel of digital overload. Now, I realize that I am currently sharing with you on digital overload, but I don't digital overload all the time. But it is making a comeback, doing things besides that. I would say adding to this would be like board games and card games and things like that are also making a comeback. That's not in this story, but I can see that happening, so I like it. I like it. I like my basic games that are non-digital. Okay, so in this situation, this digital stuff, there's some people that made some comments, and there's a guy named Robert Obelli. I may have messed up his last name. He said, we live in a digital age that fosters a false sense of connection. But I think true connection happens in person. And I think that's the reason it's coming back. Good morning, Mary. I am going to stay warm. I got plenty of wood in, so we're ready to go. Electric or no electric. But, I think that's the reason I think that's the reason there's a comeback, because people are losing connection. Now, Melissa Bobbitt, she made a comment too, and she's all involved in this rebirth of non-digital. And she said, if we all filled each other's mailboxes with letters, we would be kinder, and at a very least, we wouldn't dread checking our mailboxes. So do you dread checking your mailbox? I don't know that I dread it, but I don't get a lot of good news there. And in the old days, people looked forward to getting letters written in there. And so how long has it been since you wrote a letter to someone? I'm not talking about email. I'm talking about a real live letter that you wrote with your hands, not on the keyboard. And you put a stamp on it, and you put an address on it, and you put a return address on it, and you send it to somebody. It'd be kind of neat to do that, wouldn't it? It's been a while since I've done much of that. And I have some people that send me those, but I'm not very good at sending them back. So I'm hoping that this inspires me to send a couple people letters. And I think it will. And I may report on that Monday. Okay, next story. Who knows what peanut-style pay raises are? I didn't know until I read this story. Peanut-style pay raises are making a comeback in 2026. I've never heard of them. But some employers are moving away from performance-based increases because of the concerns that the practice is too subjective and potentially biased. No kidding. You think there's a chance that there might be some bias in performance-based raises? You think there's somebody at a job somewhere got a bigger pay raise because of who they were or who they knew? Could that happen? Does that ever happen anywhere? Anyway, according to a new report with PayScale, this year, 44% of companies plan to rely on peanut butter approach method of evenly spreading pay hikes across the workforce. I guess that's where it gets its name, because they're evenly spreading the pay hikes. So everybody's getting the same thing, basically, because they don't want anybody to get an advantage. That's not worked very good in society when you give everybody the same thing. I know that there's examples where when people shared everything, the lazy people did nothing, and the people that were willing to work did everything. And that is a danger of the peanut butter style approach. The good news is smaller companies seem to be offering higher pay raises, and they don't use that system as much as some of the bigger corporations, which do that a lot. Now, there's something else that came out of this that was kind of interesting, the study. They found that 77% of Generation Z, that's the young people, They want a job that is hard to automate. That's pretty smart, actually. They're looking for things like, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, because those are jobs that that the old digital world cannot take away from them. That sounds pretty smart to me. So anyway, that's another thing that came out of that study that I thought was interesting. Speaking of studies, I do a lot of talking about studies, don't I? That's because they're interesting. This next study is tiny diet changes, and tiny exercise, a little bit of more extra sleep can extend your life. Yeah, that's what they say. So you don't have to, in this study, you don't have to hit the gym every day. You don't have to eat kale with every meal. And I'm not putting down kale, okay? Good morning, Lisa. I'm not putting down kale. I kind of like kale, okay? But, kale overload could be a problem for me. Anyway, you don't have to get 8 hours of sleep every night to make a difference to your health. Taking baby steps in all these areas can move you forward health-wise. I'm enjoying this morning. I had to warm it back up because I've been here for a while. But anyway, so if you have poor health habits, okay, just eating a few more vegetables every day, spend a little bit more time sleeping, get a few more minutes of exercise each day will help you live longer and have a better life. So this study says, and I tend to think that's probably true. Now, speaking of sleep, I have another sleep story. And it basically, I'm just going to lay it right out. Let your teenagers sleep, okay? Let them sleep. Sleeping on weekends may boost teens' mental health. We're not talking physical now. We're talking about mental health. So I can see it now. It's Saturday morning. You come in and, you're used to waking up your children to go to school. So you're just, ripping up to this, turning on the light, get up. Blah, blah, blah. But why are you doing on days that they don't have to go to school? Well, maybe you shouldn't be. Because a new study says sleeping on the weekend to catch up on sleep lost during the week can boost their mental well-being. Okay, now researchers, they had about 1,000 people ages 16 to 24. And they found that those who got more sleep on the weekend were 41% less likely to experience depressive symptoms. 41%. These are young people now. This study offered really the first look at connecting between that risk, mental health risk, and weekend catch-up sleep. But apparently it's real. So let those kids sleep on the weekend when they don't have to get up. Now, I believe, this is my personal opinion now, I believe that this works for adults too. It's not just they studied 16 to 24, but hey, us people, 50 or so, my experience is getting more sleep, taking afternoon naps. I love afternoon naps, early afternoon naps, not late afternoon because that messes up your sleep. Early afternoon naps, they help my mental health. I don't know about you guys, but any chance I get to take an afternoon nap, I'm all in. So while I may not sleep longer during the night, I'm going to get some more sleep somehow. And so I think this works for adults too. They didn't do a study on that. That's my personal opinion. You can agree or disagree with my opinion. So how dental care connects to heart health, okay? A new scientific study, yet another study, but this is a statement from the American Heart Association that highlights strong connection between dental health and heart. And it followed up with a research that they did in 2012. Now, Andrew Train, a pediatric cardiologist and the chair of a scientific writing group, said, and I quote, "If you have poor oral hygiene or gum disease, what happens is you have bacteria from your mouth that will enter your bloodstream." And he says that can affect blood vessels and later on heart health as well. So your problems in your mouth, it sounds to me like they're saying that long-term problems in your mouth, gum disease, oral hygiene, all that stuff, long-term, it can affect your health. So let's keep that mouth clean, okay? Let's take care of it. Or down the road, you may have health problems, heart health problems. I think it sounds like a good idea to me, but hey, who knows? I know some people that have dirty mouths, potty mouths even. So let's clean those things up, all right? Okay, I got a quote from Jack Nicklaus. This is kind of off the topic, but I liked it. Sometimes the biggest problem is in your head. You've got to believe that you can play a shot instead of wondering where your next bad shot is coming from. And we have a tendency to get into that where instead of thinking about what we're doing, we're wondering what's going to mess it up, what's going to be the problem. So just look forward to believing that what you're doing is right, and I think you'll find out that that works better. Don't worry about. The bad things are going to come. Okay, so you don't have to sit around and worry about them. So don't do that. All right, don't do that. Take his advice. All right, forget about your last bad shot. Not think that it's coming again. I have a philosophy. This is not in my script, but I have a philosophy about golf. Or lots of things in life, okay? To be a good golfer, you have to be able to forget your last shot. Now, for you golfers, you know what I'm talking about. And for other things that you do, you have to forget your last shot. Why? Because if you hit a good shot, then you all of a sudden think you're now a great golfer. I hit a great shot, and you relax with the next shot, and you mess it up. And then you shoot a bad shot. And then all of a sudden you decide, oh, I'm a horrible golfer. I'm going to hit all my bad shots. All the shots bad. And then you start hitting bad shots. And one bad shot will turn into 4 or 5 bad shots because of the way you think about it. So if you hit a good shot, forget about it. Focus on the next shot. If you hit a bad shot, forget about it. Focus on the next shot, and you'll be a better golfer. And that's my golfing tip for today. So I have one more story, and I'm actually going to read this story because I love this story. I read it, I don't know, somewhere. I can't tell you where I got it, I'm sorry. But I like it. And so I'm actually going to read it to you, all right? Because I will only do it justice by reading it. So there was an evangelist from Cambodia who told a story about a remote village who had never heard the gospel of Jesus before. They had never even heard Jesus' name at all. But when he went there and preached in one service, the entire village got saved. Now, I know all evangelists dream of that, but usually that doesn't happen. Okay? The people were broken and weeping, and the evangelists could not understand why they were so receptive. But then one of them said, "We've been waiting on you for years." Interesting, isn't it? He told what happened. He said, during the rule of Habad, there was a great slaughter. I guess apparently a bad leader of the region. Soldiers went around to villages, village after village, killing anyone who resisted them. Okay? The troops arrived at our village, and they dug a ditch, a huge ditch, that lined us up to stand over it. The soldiers lifted their guns, preparing to shoot us one by one. But when they put the pistol to one woman's head, she screamed out loud as she could, "Oh God, that died of execution, save me." Oh God, that died of execution, save me. She had heard somewhere about a God who died by execution. She didn't know the name of Jesus or anything about the Bible, but she cried out to God with all she knew. God of execution, save me. Well, the gunshot never happened. There was never a gun fired. After a few minutes, the people turned around and discovered that the soldiers had fled. And he said, ever since then, we have prayed to the God of execution. We didn't know his name or his story. We had just heard that there was a God who had been executed and then came back. And they told us about when you told us about how Jesus died on the cross to save us. When we cried out to God in prayer, he does hear us. And so they were prepared for their whole life, well, not their whole life, but for many years, for the God of execution. But they didn't know who he was. And then when this evangelist came here, he told them the rest of the story. And that's the reason they were so, because they've been waiting for years to hear the story about this God of execution. And then they got to hear about Jesus. Isn't that a great story? I think so. So with that, I'm going to wind up. Have a warm weekend, a good weekend. I will be back Monday, and we'll probably talk about the weather some, but not too much because there's lots of other important things to talk about. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Be blessed, and I will see you, or that is, you'll see me Monday morning. Bye-bye.